got the thumbs up. Good evening, everyone. I need a motion to reconvene back into regular session, please. Thanks. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? All right. It's time for item 8 on our agenda. We got some things done out in the great outdoors at McKeno Park. We had a wonderful celebration and recognition of many who were involved in McKeno Park's opening. It's experiencing a soft opening this week, and our city manager can tell you more about that right now in his city manager's report.
Sorry, Mayor, that snuck up on me. Couple of items. Did take the opportunity prior to this meeting to unveil the plaque and begin the opening ceremonies for McKeno Park and Common Ground there. We're able to recognize some of the significant stakeholders, including McKeno, Tri-Health, Senator Wilson, FC Cincinnati Foundation. I'm afraid I left someone else out again, but we're able to hear from several of the Rachel Koffler, of course, stakeholders there. Throughout the rest of the weekdays this week, there will be opportunities for some of those stakeholders, such as McKeno, to honor their employees with events at the park. And then that will culminate Saturday with the permanent opening of the park. We'll have a open event there. And then the park will be open for everyone throughout the community to enjoy. Just a couple of other announcements here. Reminders. Also, earlier today, some council members and others were able to take a tour of the Aquatic Center as that begins opening for the leisure pool portion. In the month of May, we have open houses planned for Saturday, May 8th, 15th, and 22nd. Free admittance for those in the community to come take a sample of what is I think in the end, quite an impressive feature and a new amenity for the city. And then a final reminder, Friday, May 28th, photo entries are due for the 2022 City of Mason calendar. That always generates a lot of interest, and we'd like to get those photos in so the calendars can be ready later this year. That is all I have, Mayor, except for a reminder that we do need to adopt the minutes from the April 12th council meeting.
There. Thank you. Thank you for getting me back on track. We skipped item 7. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the April 12th council meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Anyone need to abstain? All right, moving right along to item 9 on the agenda. It's recognition of visitors. We have someone here that traveled from somewhat afar, actually from Lebanon. We have Mr. John Gomez here, who is representing Congressman Shabbat's office. He'd like to give us a quick update, and then any members of the public who wish to speak here in the audience or from home. If you're at home watching, go ahead and raise your hand. Mr. Gomez, if you want to come on up. Yes. Yes, and when you get to the podium, you can just state your name and your details and tell us what's going on in Washington with Congressman Shabbat, our congressional 1st District representative.
Absolutely. John, for the record, John Gomez, 2320 Equestrian Drive, Miamisburg, Ohio, so a little further than Lebanon even. Like I said, I'm John Gomez. I'm with Congressman Steve Shabbat's office. I work out of the Warren County office in Lebanon on Broadway over there. I want to come talk a little bit about what we're doing right now. A lot of our focus has been on constituent services lately. Congressman Shabbat's been busy in DC, and we'd be happy to come back with a full legislative report whenever you guys would like. A lot of you probably know David McCandless, who was, who had this region for a very long time. I came here, kind of encroached on his territory, but a lot of what I do involves casework. So I focus on the Social Security and Medicare issues that people in the district have. So if any of you know of anyone with a Social Security issue or Medicare issue, feel free to call up our office. I'll give that number at the end. My outreach area includes all of South Warren County. So basically from Lebanon down to Mason, and then all the way over across up to the other end of the county there. And generally our office offers help with any federal agencies. So if you have issues with the IRS, with the getting a passport, getting a visa, we're there to help with that kind of stuff, and we can help expedite that process if you're having any issues with a federal agency. We also have some other events going on throughout the district right now. We have our Congressional Art Contest, we're about to open up the voting on that. So we'll have, winners coming out of Warren County, Hamilton County, some going to DC and some staying here. So keep an eye out for that. And we're also in the early stages of developing our Congressional Art Contest. So we'll have, for those more tech inclined, we'll be working on that project soon, and we'll have more information for the entire district coming soon on that. So if anyone in Warren County has any issues, the best way to get in contact with us is our Warren County office, and the number, just for everyone's own use, is 513-421-8704. If that goes to voicemail, just leave a message and one of us will get to you hopefully within the day. Otherwise, I'm always here to be a resource to the congressman and to Mason and all of Warren County. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, thank you guys for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez, and give Congressman Chabot our best. Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone in the online queue? Just curious. No, not at this time. Okay. Do we have people from the audience who wish to be recognized as visitors? Mr. Hackey, I saw your hand first. Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. For the record, my name is Mark Hackey. I reside at, 3620 Dunlop Court. No, I'm not muffled. Right here in the wonderful city of Mason. So tonight you're planning to vote on Resolution 2021-6. This is a resolution establishing a policy related to nonprofit corporations engaged in political activity and declaring an emergency. I have a few questions regarding this resolution. First off, how do you define political activity? Who gets to handpick which activities you find objectionable and apply the punishment to whichever nonprofit isn't bowing to your rule? Does this mean any member of a nonprofit who is exercising their rights under the U.S. Constitution, even if they are not representing the nonprofit while doing so, would be subject to subject the nonprofit to punishment? Who decides if it's a qualifying activity that would then subject the nonprofit to retaliatory action? Why did you need to coordinate with Deerfield Township to take this action? Was it so you could really stick it to the chamber? Or as Ms. Lutz so ridiculously claimed, this isn't a punishment, you just hope that the chamber might learn a lesson. Last and most importantly, how does this resolution benefit the residents or businesses of Mason in any way whatsoever? By all accounts, this resolution stinks of an attempt at revenge on the chamber, the one organization that is devoted to helping businesses. So therefore, by attacking the chamber, you are in fact attacking the businesses that you so lovingly profess to care so much for. Your actions certainly do not in any way reflect your remarks or your rhetoric. I can't help but wonder who's next. Who is next in your crosshairs? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hackey. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. And then, sir, in the back, I think I saw your hand. You can come right after that.
Hi, my name's Annie Droege, and I am a Mason resident, 4509 Estate Court. I have to say that I am having a hard time finding the transparency or research to show me as a tax-paying resident that this negotiation with one bidder for the downtown development is the best idea for Mason. There are so many questions I have, but the one I keep coming back to and wanting more information about is how we ended up in negotiations with just one developer instead of multiple bids. I was hoping someone could elaborate on this particular matter. Is that allowed?
Do you want us to answer now?
I have another question if I can.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and ask them both now and then we can follow up? Okay.
Also, once the city has finished its negotiations with the developer, is there any chance we as residents can see the plans before it comes to council for a vote? Or are there any specific details that can be shared about this property as it's being negotiated, such as how many apartments and how many storefronts? Is there public parking with this deal? Does this include a plan to shape up any green spaces for families to come and utilize while enjoying our small businesses downtown? That's it.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So as on the last question, I'll do my best. Yes. And when we first had Mr. Cohen here to show us his proposal, he came, it was a Zoom meeting, I believe, or he Zoomed in. We had technical difficulties, but he had a video to show us and images to show us. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the date was, but you could go back and find that on ICRC and see some images that he presented. He has those images. I don't believe we have them, but they're recorded on ICRC. It does include beautification of some pedestrian areas around that development. And as far as providing information, we have upfront, but certainly this will go through all the proper channels. It will go through Planning Commission. You'll see images, and all of that will be transparent and open to the public.
Will it be transparent and open to the public before it becomes an agenda item?
Well, yeah, we'll announce it on the agenda, and yes, and the public will have the opportunity to give us feedback and people have been even long before it's become an agenda item.
But when it becomes an agenda item and we get to see that visual for the first time, will you guys be able to vote on it on that same meeting? Pass it?
It depends on the will of council, if it is going to be adopted after a first reading or if we do a first reading and a second reading.
So I super frustrated because history has shown that that probably will pass. And I think it is disheartening as a resident that this is the way it's going down. I don't think it's been as public as it's been stated that it has. I don't think residents really truly understand what's going on. And I hope, I know I'm cutting you off, and I hope you can get to the answer of truly, I cannot wrap my head around why we don't have competitive bids against this, so we can say that we have done our due diligence in picking the best thing to go downtown, to shape our downtown Mason.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your feedback. It does reflect some of the recommendations of previous, studies and reports. Jeff, would you mind explaining a little bit to Mrs. Droege the process when a developer comes to the city with an idea? And just to assure you that we've gone through the normal, proper process that we would have. This is a unique situation, and it's the first time a proposal of any magnitude like that has been offered in downtown Mason. But I'll let Jeff go ahead and explain how it's gone down.
Well, in this particular circumstance, the city was approached by a developer with a proposal about how to develop a portion of downtown. And upon reviewing that proposal, council directed staff to begin negotiating a development agreement with that particular developer. And at that time, they hadn't received any other proposals or anything from any other developers. That was the only one that had been presented at that time. And so based on the direction council gave staff, we began negotiating the terms of a development agreement.
Yes, I completely understand. I watched that. It was a November meeting, I think 2020. But how did you guys, what is the plan for City of Mason, downtown Mason? Is there a research study? Is there a vision? Is there a strategic plan to say this is it? This is the development that should be there. And this is the first step to put it there. And we've discussed it and the public knows. I'm just not seeing the ducks in a row. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Droege. Anyone else in the audience? Sir in the back.
First off, I apologize for the way I'm dressed. I just came from a baseball field for youth baseball practice. So, but thank you, Mayor and council members, for donating your time and effort. Really appreciate it. My name is Chris Cafaro. I live at 4886 Elizabeth Court here in Mason, Ohio. You mentioned pedestrians before, Mayor. So my first question was about pedestrians. So The roundabout at Grace Baptist Church in Mason Road, a good friend of ours' daughter was hit by a car there. I guess it was probably spring or summer of 2020 by a speeding driver, and she was in the crosswalk when she got hit. But on my way to practice tonight on Snyder Road, they have 2 different crosswalks where you can press a button and there are very bright flashing lights. I don't know if you've ever noticed those or seen those, but I was just wondering what's the possibility of getting something like that at the roundabout or roundabouts in Mason. We have a lot of people that run, walk, bike. I'd like to see safer for pedestrians if possible.
Well, that is a question we're going to ask our engineer, Kurt Seiler. This would be his domain. So Kurt, how does Chris go about this request?
We, in general, with roundabouts, you try not to mix signals with the roundabout. I understand what your concern is to highlight the crosswalk, and I'd like to know more about that accident, what happened, if it's a visibility issue, maybe there's some reason that the pedestrian wasn't seen, but typically our roundabouts are 15 to 20 miles per hour in the circulating lane. We make sure when we build the roundabouts that the lighting lights up the crosswalks. You'll notice that all of our roundabouts, the crosswalks are lit to highlight the importance of pedestrian crossings. They all have refuge islands so that as you cross, you only have to look at one direction at a time to cross the intersection. It's not to say that we couldn't add what's called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. They're called RRFBs, and they are button actuated, but to add them at every roundabout, every crossing, I think they would start to lose their effectiveness. So I think you have to be very particular where we put them within the city. To date, like you said, we have a couple in the city. There's 2 on Hickory Woods Drive and 1 on Snyder Road. Those have all been installed by the city, but paid for by the HOAs at those subdivisions. They typically, and both of those locations are where there's a clubhouse on one side of the street where the pool is, and they have a lot of pedestrians. And so that's another recommendation would be you want to put it at a location where there is a lot of pedestrians at that location. So
Can I reach out to you at a later time?
Sure.
The cost of that, since I'm on the board, so that'd be a good collaboration. Okay, thank you. What was it called again? RRFB, good to know. All right, and then my second item was during COVID, I started watching Zoom meetings of council meetings, and I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up, but Miss Droege brought this up, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. Collaboration and teamwork. Sometimes it's not very evident with you guys when you're voting on things, and it's very frustrating to be a Mason resident and watch this. So I would just add, like McKeno Park, you guys do wonderful things in the city. It's fantastic. I'm sure there was collaboration and teamwork and everything. I would just like to see more of that with the downtown development. It's kind of, you can see the line. It's not fun to watch, especially being a Mason resident. So I don't know. I just challenge you to work together and let the citizens know what's going on. It'd be very much appreciated. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad you got to play baseball today. And we have been meeting in executive session, so there are some things that we just can't explain yet because they're privileged. But part of the reason for doing that in this executive session is that so all 7 of us can work together in that environment. So thank you very much. Who's got something else?
I do. I'm sorry. I apologize. I jotted down 2 notes when you were responding to Annie's questions. One was the video. You said there were technical difficulties for that session. Is there any way we could get a copy of that or request a copy so we can see it?
Mayor, sorry, it's the November 17th.
November
video.
17th. There were technical difficulties. It took him a while to load it, so you'll have to be patient, but eventually it gets going. The visual works, the audio is a little bit off the visual, I think, but
But if you go back and watch the meeting, you'll be able to see the his idea and his vision
Yes.
for the area? Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
And then the other item was, I think Jeff mentioned, it was the first bid that came to the city of Mason. But did you guys ever open it up to bids ever?
We did not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Hey, Mayor.
All right, are we ready to move on to item 10, Resolution 2021-7?
Mayor, I was going to address.
excuse me.
If you don't mind.
Yes,
Yeah, just, I was going to do this in old and new business, but I think it's probably pretty pertinent to do now to answer Mr. Ogie's and Mr. Cafero's. In our last meeting, I think there's been a few misconceptions and said that we are doing the exact same thing as Lebanon, as Milford, as Hamilton and Loveland. And so it took me about 20 minutes. I went and did a little bit of research, and I researched what their downtown plans look like. And literally, Kurt, would you mind? I have them for everybody to view. And I would like after this meeting for all of us to get this and take a look at it, because I think it's going to shed a little bit of light. I've mentioned this several times that I'm all for this development if it's the best and it's all we have to work with, but we don't know. And I've also mentioned this has to be community driven. And through every one of these things that you're going to see, it's community driven. It's not developer driven. And so I'm not going to go through these whole plans, but I would encourage each and every one in here, online or watching this, to take a look at these. It's eye-opening. This is the process they went through. We went through a dinner and a glass of wine with a developer, and we're brought this development plan. Look at this.
hold on one
This
second.
is Hamilton.
Who went to dinner and had a glass of wine with the developer and brought
You
this?
did. You mentioned.
No, this started with Mayor Kidd
Oh,
and with the president of the Chamber of Commerce.
okay. So here's Hamilton.
That is not true. And I assume that you had a quick reply to our visitor. This isn't really
Well, I think this is
appropriate time for your
prime information
presentation.
for you to see.
Excuse me, it's not the appropriate time for your presentation. It'd be better during old and new business if we can get through the city's business, please. Let's go ahead.
Stick
Sorry,
around, I'll
Kurt.
do it then.
We have a very short agenda, so it won't take long. And I would appreciate only honest comments moving forward. All right, Resolution 2021-7. We need a motion to read by title only, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Jeff?
Proclaiming the week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week.
Jennifer?
Mayor, members of council, annually, either in March, April, May timeframe, we begin to recognize the services of the many different departments we have here at the city. Or Resolution 2021-7 recognizes a portion of our service department, which is the Public Works Division of it. The Public Works Division, as many of you know, are best known probably for their snow and ice removal, leaf pickup, as well as brush chipping. But they're also very much known for the smaller things that many of us don't think of, which is signage in the right-of-ways, litter pickup in the right-of-ways. Even tonight's 2 events that we hosted took a lot of our crews preparing those facilities, doing repairs, maintenance, and general cleanup, getting them ready for the events tonight, as well as setup of tents and microphones and things like that. So these individuals are very talented folks with a lot of different skills, and we use a very collaborative approach here at the city. Not only do our Public Works Department do a lot of this work, but many employees throughout our organization assist with services such as snow and ice removal, leaf, brush chipping, etc. It takes a very collaborative approach, and I think that our organization demonstrates very much that collaborative approach in getting things done here at the city. The theme for Public Works Week this year is Stronger Together, and I think that's very appropriate and really demonstrates what we're doing here at the City of Mason. With that, Resolution 2021-7 is recommended for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We need a motion to adopt.
Second.
Any council discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Councilmember Nelson. Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw.
Yes.
Mayor Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Item 11 on the agenda is Resolution 2021-8. We have a first reading. I need a motion to read that by title only, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Adopting the budget of the City of Mason for the year January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022.
Eric?
Yes, Mayor, this is generally a housekeeping item. It is not the annual budget, despite the title is the tax budget. We would like to set a public hearing. There is a misprint in the information in your packet. We'd like that public hearing to be set for May 10th, 2021, which would be our next council meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 12 is Ordinance 2021-59. I need a motion to read that by title only. All in favor? Any opposed? Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Sunesis Construction Company for the State Route 741 widening and roundabout project, Weldon Drive to Avalon Trail, in the amount of $4,897,175.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to cover both the next two ordinances if I could. This will be a widening project on 741. It includes a roundabout at the R&D park, what we call Mason Research and Development Park. This would extend the project that's about to get started between Spyglass Hill and Weldon Drive. This will extend it from Weldon Drive up to Avalon Trail and include the roundabout. This will provide an exciting signature gateway to the city and also to the R&D park where Vega is currently under construction with their headquarters. Sunesis is a ODOT a pre-qualified contractor with extensive experience in our area. They actually did the widening of Mason Montgomery Road right outside our building here several years ago. Sunesis also was awarded the project from Spyglass Hill to Weldon Drive, so them being the low bidder on this project makes our overall coordination and management of the construction much simpler with this bid. Our budget this year included just over $5 million for construction of this project, and Sunesis's bid, we had 6 bidders and they were at just under $4.9 million for the project. Ordinance 2021-60 authorizes the financing for the project, and we expect construction, if this is awarded, to start this spring yet and then be completed by fall of next year. So we think it'll take this construction season and then through potentially next summer. Traffic on 741 would be maintained at all times. And with that, ordinance 2021-59 and 60 are both recommended for adoption. I'll answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Kurt. We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? We need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Any council discussion or questions for Kurt? Seeing there are none, let's call the roll.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw.
Yes.
Mayor Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
Aw, poor thing. All right, item 13 is ordinance 2021-60. We need a motion to read that by title only, please.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, Jeff.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $10 million of bonds by the city of Mason, Ohio for making road improvements.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? You need a motion to adopt? Thank you. Any council discussion on this one? right, let's call the roll.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Item 14 on the agenda is Resolution 2021-6, but that is here for a second reading. We had the first reading in our last meeting. I need a motion to read that by title only, please. All in favor? Any opposed?
Yes. I'm opposed.
Okay, we have one who is opposed. All right, that means we'll have to read the entire document. Okay. No, not this time, since we read the entire document the last time.
Sorry, what,
He,
there one no vote on the?
shall we call the roll on
You
reading by
can't. It
title
takes
only?
It takes 5 yes votes to read it by title only, and I thought that there were 5. If there was only one no.
I thought there were 5 also. Let's call the roll just to be sure. This is just to read by title only.
Read by title only. Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Don't know.
Okay, well, go ahead, Jeff.
Then that motion passes to read by title only. And by title only is Resolution 2021-6, a resolution establishing a policy related to nonprofit corporations engaged in political activity and declaring an emergency.
Eric.
As the mayor mentioned, this resolution was, Councilmember Bradburn requested this be added to the April 12th agenda, which it was. It received a first reading at that meeting, and which is why it appears here for a second reading. The resolution proposes a policy respecting how city funds and nonprofits who engage in local political activity could be ineligible for any funding by the city of Mason based on their political activity, and council determining that. There was an emergency clause that was added to the legislation, and it's ready for the second reading tonight, or it's had the second reading, I should say.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading. Well, it'd be the second reading, excuse me.
So moved.
You don't need that. You don't need any kind of motion.
I don't need that motion? Oh, I'm so sorry.
This is the second reading.
Okay,
It's at this point, it would be a motion to adopt.
okay. I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Okay, for council discussion, I'm going to relinquish the floor to the vice mayor.
All right, so is there a motion to adopt? I guess we've had a motion and a second to adopt. Is there a discussion?
Vice Mayor?
Councilmember Chance?
Sure. You know, we're elected to pass good policy. And this policy, I think we all should agree, is at best lousy. This is a personal vendetta policy against the chamber. Although it doesn't say it in the policy, it is, if anyone in here or online was at our last work session with the chamber, which I was extremely embarrassed to be a part of this body. It's exactly what we're dealing with here. And I don't play this personal vendetta legislation game. In activity forever, we've had council chamber nights where it's meet the candidate nights. They helped us with our downtown when we needed help with issue 4. Huge advocates. And I think that passed 80-20 with issue 4, 78-22, somewhere along those lines. And it was mainly because of them. And so now here we are, we're trying to pass this thing, and it is aimed towards them. I don't know why we didn't just put the chamber in the legislation. And plus, to Mr. Hackey's point, we don't define what a political activity is. We give some examples, but that just allows for bloated government to come in and make up our mind in this council and future councils to make a decision who we're going to partner with. And to me, I'm just sitting there going, there is no way I can get behind this. And it's sad that we're sitting up here trying to pass something like this. Absolutely sad. That's all I really have to say about it.
Any other discussion, council?
Vice Mayor, I have an amendment I'd like to offer.
Mayor Grossman, go ahead. Get the floor.
Thank you. Kurt, could I borrow you and the screen? Thank you. I think I have another copy of that. I sent this to Eric today and asked him to forward it to council, an amendment to this. We discussed this resolution in our committee meeting, and I suggested an amendment, and we ended up running out of time, and we didn't finish our discussion of that. But I went ahead and typed up an amendment. Council's been given it in advance just to bring some clarity to it. So if you look in section 1, everything you see in normal text, plain text, whoa, everything in the plain text is original from the document, and what you see in bold print is added language. So we'll get there. There it is. So in section 1, just to brings about some more clarity, and Mr. Hackey raised the question of what does that mean? And in the parenthetical phrase in section 1, it is identified by the writer of the resolution: endorsing, ranking, rating, promoting, and I added promoting, supporting, contributing of or to, including bestowing upon candidates or elected officials awards or positions by the nonprofit. So that's the amendment in bold. And then the rest of it: for municipal office, school board, or municipal court shall be deemed not to be for a proper public purpose and shall be prohibited. And if you read the resolution earlier in the document, it talks about using the public funds for a proper public purpose. In section 2, I am recommending this amendment also to cross out the phrase that you see there and replace it with require said nonprofit to certify in writing that it does not and will not engage in political activity as described in section 1 for the duration of the then current election cycle, which is 2 years from the date of entering its contract with the city. In making this determination, the city shall also take into consideration the nonprofit's level of cooperation in providing information about its political activity to the city. If certification is untrue, or if the nonprofit violates the terms of the certification, any sums given by the city to the nonprofit are subject to disgorgement. So that section right there that I added, if council were to adopt this amendment, that is the compromise. That is the pathway. I think that, it's unfortunate Mr. Hackey's assumptions about the motives for this piece of this resolution. It was offered by Councilmember Bradburn. He worked with our law director to write it. And it's unfortunate Councilmember Chance's personal attacks on his colleagues and the nonsense about something being a personal vendetta or directed at the chamber. There's nothing in this document that has anything to do with the chamber. And I have a statement to go with my argument now that I've shown you the amendments, and I'll go as quickly as I can. Some years ago, council adopted a policy on charitable giving to nonprofit organizations. Council at that time required the nonprofit organization to be Mason-centric and to provide services that benefit Mason residents. A $2 to $1 match with a cap of $8,000 and an annual budget set for all charitable giving, which was usually between $40,000 and $60,000 in any given year. Recently, the city implemented the additional policy of entering into service agreements with nonprofits instead of simply gifting public funds to private nonprofits. Those service agreements have had a positive impact and have helped promote the public objectives as well as those of the nonprofits with whom we partner. A fundamental premise of Mason's giving to charitable and nonprofit entities is that they are solely engaged in charitable and philanthropic services and activities of general benefit to Mason as a whole. Partisan political activity is contrary to that policy goal. Councilmember Bradburn introduced Resolution 2021-6 to the public at our April 12th meeting, where it had its first reading. Our Policy and Legislation Committee discussed the resolution and the possibility of amending it at our meeting last week. Councilmember Bradburn's resolution sets forth strong, sound public policy when entering partnerships, sponsorships with, or grants money to private nonprofits. 501c3s may not engage in political activity, but C4s and C6s can. The city and the council have no authority to approve, deny, monitor, or penalize tax-exempt status. For further clarification, I'm offering these amendments to sections 1 and 2 of Resolution 2021-6. If a nonprofit entity with a status other than a 501c3 wishes to engage in city partnerships, it is permissible under this resolution with its amendments, as long as council deems it a proper public purpose and the organization agrees to certify in writing that it will abstain from political activity for the duration of the then current election cycle, which is defined as 2 years from the date of granting a donation or entering an agreement with the city as set forth in sections 1 and 2 of the document. And on a personal note, at least how I feel about this piece of policy, when Mr. Bradburn made his argument about spending public funds on organizations that are engaged in political activity that directly affect our body, I tried to argue with him in my mind, but I can't argue with him. He raised an excellent argument, and I believe if we adopt this resolution with the amendments, we'll have a sound public policy in place for our council and for future councils to come. And thank you for your patience.
So there's a motion to amend. Is there a second on the motion to amend? Is there a discussion on the motion to amend?
Yes, sorry,
Councilmember.
I have lost my voice, so I really apologize for how terrible I sound. I would like to amend the amendment. I would like to also have in there direct and indirect, because there are ways where they're indirecting other organizations indirectly have done things that awards, whatever, indirectly. So if we're going to do that, we need to add that to it. I'd also like to, I don't like how we propose like small changes don't bother me, but these are big changes and we're on the second reading. And so I kind of feel like it's unfair to our residents when we do stuff like this because we really don't give them a chance. The second reading is to allow the public to hear the first reading, and if they don't like it, they can come forward and have conversations with us, and we're not allowing them to do that. So if we are going to make this big of a change, I would like to at least not vote on it tonight and to give it another council meeting until, just to be fair to our community.
So it sounds like you sound like you have two motions. One is to
Yes, I
amend,
do.
and the other one is to table for further discussion or
Correct.
consideration. Is there a second on the motion to amend? I think your amendment was to add the word indirect, so direct and indirect?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Do we need to call the roll or?
I'm trying to find it. I think you do have to call the roll on it.
You will need to call the roll, but before we do that, I just want to.
Yes.
So I'm just looking, I just want to make sure exactly where we're adding the word indirect.
Are you meaning does not engage in direct and indirect political activity in section 2?
Correct. But can I also add, because I want to make another change?
Okay.
This is the time to do it. I like to change it because a 501c3 by law will lose their IRS non-for-profit status if they engage in political activity. I completely agree that Mason should not be engaging in any providing money to any 501c3 that is violating the rules of what a non-for-profit is about. The 501c6 is our Chamber of Commerce. Our Chamber of Commerce is extremely important that we partner with them, that we are working collaboratively with them. They are the lobbyists for our businesses. They are an extremely important part of our community. They do stuff like our community benefits from what they do politically. They have meet and greet the candidates so that we have a forum. So everyone running goes on this forum and we answer questions so that residents can understand who we are, what we stand for, what we believe. They also provide forums for the public to meet their elected officials, for businesses to meet elected officials. And I feel like by excluding the Chamber of Commerce, that that really is something that isn't good for our community. So I would like to put in there 501c3s only and not 501c6s. Because 6 directly is the Chamber of Commerce. I don't feel like we need to exclude them from being partners with us.
So I want to, so are you moving to amend to add the words direct or indirect before the word political activity as a first amendment? And then are you also asking that it be amended to limit it to 501c3 organizations?
Correct.
You want to vote on those as one motion, or do you want to vote on those as two separate motions?
One motion.
Is there a second to that motion, which would be to add the words direct or indirect before?
Well, I guess we can do them separately.
Okay, all right. I might suggest we do them separately. So is there a second to amend the ordinance to add the words direct and indirect, which I would believe would be engaged in direct or indirect political activity in section 1? Is there a second to that amendment?
I seconded it earlier if it's appropriate, since I offered the original amendment.
Is there any discussion on that motion to amend? If not, the clerk will call the roll on. So the motion is the motion to amend to add the words direct and indirect before the word political activity in section 1. Clerk, call the roll.
Member Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes. So then I would just believe you're asking for an amendment to limit the ordinance to 501c3 organizations.
Correct.
And is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion from council on that addition? Mayor Grossman.
Yes, I think it should it be inclusive of all types of nonprofits, because the idea of giving public funds to a nonprofit that we know may be engaging in endorsing or rating or ranking current elected officials or candidates offsets their costs. Basically, in essence, we're contributing public money to an organization that's involved in political activity like PACs are. And so I think it's sound public policy to limit that. It does not exclude the Chamber of Commerce whatsoever. And candidate forums are not included in this parenthetical phrase that lists the types of political activity that we're talking about. We're talking about endorsing, ranking, rating, promoting, supporting, contributing over to, including bestowing upon candidates or elected officials awards or positions by the nonprofits. That's entirely different from candidate forums and opportunities for elected officials to meet with businesses and hear businesses' needs. So that's my opinion on that motion to amend.
Any other council discussion on the amendment? Councilmember Chance?
Yeah, Vice Mayor, you keep bringing up ranking, or you keep bringing up these IEs. And let's everybody consider what's happening. Who's doing that is our constituents. It's not the Chamber of Commerce. There's not the body of 7 of them that's sitting around saying, hey, let's go around and let's rank what our city council is doing. It's our constituents that is ranking how we are doing up here. And I think we all, every single one of us, should want some feedback on how effective we are, how good we're doing, whatever that looks like. And to me, that so to misconstrue that the chamber is the one that's doing the endorsing, the ranking, the rating, the promoting, the supporting, and all of that jazz, it's not. It's our constituents that's doing it. And I think we all should sit up here and want to be held accountable. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Heck, maybe I'll get really bad marks. I know. I mean, there's a lot of people that probably give me bad marks, and okay, maybe I'll try to do better. So I'm just offering that up. It's not the chamber, it's our constituents that is doing this, and we should welcome that feedback.
Vice Mayor?
Let me recognize Councilmember Nelson.
So I really do see a problem with this. This is so vague. So now we're saying that, having candidate forums is not considered political activity. It very much is considered political activity. So I think now we're starting to, this is not specific enough. This is open to how anybody interprets it. And when you have something, on the law that is open to interpretation, there's a lot of problems that will come with this. And I don't think it's worth it. We either have to make this a lot more detailed or not have it at all. And Vice Mayor Gilb, I attended the policy and legislative meeting as a resident. I didn't speak, I observed. And you have a lot of issues with this. You're not for it, actually. And you had some really good points. Can you talk about the issues that you had with this, like you had said in the meeting? Because I think it was really important, your view, since you are an attorney.
Vice Mayor, I'm sorry if I could interrupt.
Yes.
So this discussion that council is having is supposed to be on the second amendment about whether to limit this to 501c3 only. So there's a motion and a second for that amendment on the floor right now. And that's what this discussion is. This discussion should only be relevant to the motion on the floor. I don't think there was a vote on that motion.
Correct. And I think we're correct. I think we're in discussion on that amendment. And it probably is appropriate to talk about, so I'm not sure the public understands 501c3 organizations, 501c4, 501c6 organizations. So a nonprofit corporation can be organized under any of the revenue code 501c sections. There's C3, which is a charity, an organization, a nonprofit organization engaged in charitable activity. A C4 and C6 organizations are not so much just limited to charitable activity. They can engage in political activity and get involved in legislative activity. And so we had discussion in our committee about whether this should be limited to those organizations that aren't already subject to, because there's a whole body of law, federal law, that already deals with 501c3 organizations, charities, not getting engaged in political activity. And part of my question in the committee was, are we funding organizations that aren't 501c3 charities? Are we funding C6, C4 organizations? And if so, why are we doing that? Because those organizations can engage in political activity, and should we be limiting their ability to do so? I would say I certainly don't have any impetus to tell a 501c6 organization what it can and can't do, but should that 501c6 organization be coming to the city to say, give me tax money to do what I want to do in a political arena? That I think is the impetus for where this proposal is going and where this policy is going. And I think it's appropriate for us to say that if you are a nonprofit organization engaging in political activity, to say, we don't think you should be asking for city dollars to engage in those activities. So I certainly understand the motion, which is on the table, to limit this to 501c3 organizations, but would respond saying there really is already a body of federal law that prohibits them from engaging in political activity. This legislation really needs to reach into the other arenas and say, if you are a C4 or C6 organization that can engage in political activity, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you want to come to the city and ask for city dollars, the city certainly should have the right to tell you not to engage in political activity with this council. So that's my thoughts on the motion. But is there other discussion on this point?
One more question. So this means then that we can't even, and what kind of money are we talking about? Because, we're not donating money to the chamber. We're, in a sponsorship agreement with them where we feed off of each other and we do different things to promote each other. So if we don't have the chamber on here, we're not just giving you money. Here's just, here's a donation of money for whatever, or there's a reason for the money.
Yeah, and that was part of my questions in the committee was, are we giving money to the chamber or are we getting a good or service in exchange for those dollars?
Right. So it becomes really unclear as to, this is very unclear. And I think it's, when you have a law that's unclear, it's dangerous. So I think we need to make it more specific.
So right now, we have your motion on the floor to limit this to 501c3 organizations. And I think we need to call the roll on that motion. The clerk would call, unless there's other discussion from council. The clerk would call the roll on the motion to limit this to 501c3 organizations.
Mayor Grossman,
No.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
No.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
No.
Councilmember Hunterlaw.
No.
All right, so then if I recall from your earlier discussion, you had a third effort you wanted to present in terms of delaying a vote on this motion. Let me ask our law director, do we deal with a motion to table? Well, I guess Councilmember Nelson, are you moving to table the resolution at this point?
Yeah, I just think it's the right thing to do when we completely change something and it's a second reading. It doesn't give the opportunity to the public to review it. Second reading is really made for making it the public aware so they can come in and communicate with us. We're not giving them that option when we completely change something. So I prefer that we tabled it until the next council meeting, thereby allowing others to come in if they feel.
Law director, if it's appropriate for us to deal with the tabling motion yet. But
Motion to table is appropriate anytime someone has the floor and makes that motion. If there's a second, then I would remind council that generally a motion to table is not debatable.
Okay.
If there's a second, it would go to an immediate
I'll
vote.
second that.
all right, if the clerk would call the roll.
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
No.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
No.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
No.
Mayor Grossman.
No.
So the motion to table fails. So is there a motion to adopt? No, we have,
If my recollection, so then you had the original amendment of Mayor Grossman.
oh, okay, we're back to the original.
Okay,
Okay,
we're back to that amendment, which I believe has had a
Amended.
motion and a second.
all right. So we're back to the original motion, which was amended, adding the words direct and indirect. So that amendment has been made. So we're back to discussion on adopting Mayor Grossman's amendment as it was amended. Any discussion on that?
Yes.
Councilman
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brown.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, Vice Mayor, so all I would probably add was, I believe that this amendment adds more detail to, and adds clarifying exactly what is political and what is not. And I think that's what's most important. The chamber provides a valuable and important role for the community. And the problem is, for me, is when you're, and I think Vice Mayor Gilb said it much more elegantly than I'm going to, you don't ever want to be in a position as an elected official to be voting to hand money to people that are then rating and ranking you. And that's got corruption all over it in my mind. And so I wouldn't want to have anything to do with that situation. And that's what it's doing. It's not whether or not they have anything else politically, whether or not they're out changing zoning or density or candidate forms. It's whether or not they're rating and ranking the people that then they're asking for a contribution from. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I think Councilman Nelson had
Sorry.
a comment, and then we'll come back to Councilman Chance.
Yeah, I just want to make it perfectly clear. I completely agree. I don't think a 501c3 at all should be engaging in any kind of political activity. I think a 501c6, that's what they're designed for. It's a chamber. They're lobbyists for our businesses. So I'm going to be voting no on this, but I want to make it perfectly clear that I am not voting no because I believe that a 501c3 should engage and we should give money to them, because I don't want this to be construed later as I voted no on this, but I'm only voting no because I feel like we've just really destroyed our relationship with the Chamber of Commerce this year, and it's very sad to me. Very sad. And this is just another basically kick towards them, and I want no part of it. So I will definitely be voting no on this, and that is the reason why.
Councilmember Chance.
Yeah, for clarification, Councilmember Hunterlaw, you're telling me that candidate forums is not political activity? Or, yeah, Vice Mayor Gill, that's what I heard. If anyone on this board wants to define political activity and then say candidate forums is okay. Again, lack of detail. This is just, it's just bad policy. It just is. I mean, there's no other way to slice this.
So in that vein, let me just throw out to council, rather than IE, so in the parenthetical where it says IE, which I would agree is an example, do we want to say defined as?
Yeah. Oh,
Would Mr. Bradburn would like to offer that as an
I'll-
amendment to the amendment?
Yeah, defined as.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Do we need to call the roll?
We're not going to,
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt one more time. So is this a new amendment?
It's a new one, yes.
You have an amendment
Yes,
on the floor right now.
correct.
Don't think what you're talking about, because the change you're proposing right now is not an amendment to the amendment that's on the floor. It's an amendment to the ordinance as presented.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. So we should deal first with the amendment that's on the floor. Okay, all right, let's deal with that. Is there any further discussion on the amendment that's on the floor, Representative Strictula or Councilman Strictula?
Maybe not directly I'm not even sure what we're discussing at this point, but perhaps the fact, I mean, maybe we should go back to tabling this one more time. I mean, this is not well thought out. I mean, and those are my thoughts now, because I'm not even sure if we're talking about the amendment to the amendment, the actual.
We're talking about
perhaps
Mayor Gross.
maybe this should have been more thought out before it's ever presented before council. And then I'm sure I'll have another chance at some point.
Any further discussion from council?
Vice Mayor, if I may, just to make it very, very clear, and you can see it up on the screen, but there is no mention of the candidate forums. And of course, Councilmember Chance knows this. Historically, the chamber has provided a great resource for candidates, and it has been neutral. It has provided an equal opportunity for each candidate to participate, to answer questions that are given in advance. They can answer in writing, and then the candidate forum, all the rules are laid out. They've done a marvelous job of providing a neutral candidate forum to help the community become educated about candidates. That's entirely different from endorsing, ranking, rating, promoting, supporting, contributing to, including bestowing upon candidates or elected officials awards or positions by the nonprofit. It's very, very clear. And with that, I think we should call the roll unless anybody else has something.
I do.
Nelson.
This is just from a legal standpoint, and Vice Mayor Gill, you're an attorney. I read law because I'm a CPA. I have to read tax code. And what is the definition of supporting? What is the definition of promoting?
great point.
Because in my eyes, when you hold a forum, you are promoting the candidates. You are supporting politics and the candidates. So again, this is so vague. It really does not make for good law. And you know that because you're an attorney. So I would hope you help us out here to make this clear. I just don't want us to be picking and choosing what we think is considered promoting or supporting It really needs to be clear and set in stone so that it's not, so it's something that everybody can figure out, not just us.
And to your point, I think it's clear that what the policy I think is trying to get to is to say, if you want to engage in political activity, the kinds of things that are listed here, then don't ask the city to give you city tax dollars. I think that's, if you, you can certainly engage in those things, but don't ask the city to fund those activities or give you money that helps fund those activities. So I think we all know what that looks like. Any further discussion on the amendment? The clerk would call the roll on the amendment to, which is Mayor Grossman's amendment. Go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson.
No.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
No.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter Law.
Yes.
Mayor Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
No.
So the amendment is adopted, and is there any further council discussion on the ordinance or any further amendments? Somebody want to offer an amendment in terms of deleting the IE and making it defined as? Mr. Bradburn, you had,
I'll make that motion.
you'll make that, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that change? Clerk will call the roll.
Bradburn.
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
No.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter Law.
Yes.
Mayor Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
No.
Councilmember Nelson.
I'm sorry, this is just to strike the IE. Is that what we're voting on?
Yes. Just strike IE and add defined as.
Yes.
Right, so now, have we had a motion to adopt?
So moved.
There was a motion.
Adopt in a second,
Long ago.
long time ago.
We need-
That's what got the entire
We need further
discussion.
discussion now that we're through all that.
You can have any further discussion council wants.
Is there any further council discussion? If not,
Vice Mayor Gill.
yes.
So our political activity is going to be defined just right here. Is that what you're telling me? The people that are passing this legislation, that's who ours is. Is that what we're saying? That our definition is going to stay consistent throughout this legislation with this definition? Is that what we're saying? Defined as? Is that right?
Yeah, rather than,
That was the amendment that was adopted.
Okay.
That is now,
try to bring some clarity to, rather than being examples of political activity,
Sure.
we're defining political activity under this ordinance as these kind of things.
Okay.
Clerk, call the roll on the adoption of the
Vice
the
Mayor.
resolution. Oh,
Vice Mayor, sorry.
oh,
I
Councilman
have
Strickland.
not had a chance to talk about the actual
Yes,
ordinance yet.
yes.
I appreciate it. Yeah, even with the amendments, it still does not get specific enough. There is too much ambiguity with promoting, supporting, I mean, any of those. And anyone who's been half paying attention knows that this is a direct attack on the chamber, despite the mayor's comments about it not being. Even Councilmember Honor specifically mentioned the chamber and brought them up, saying that he would hate to give money to them because they would rate him and rank him. This is, and look, the chamber is not coming to us, asking us, begging us for money. It is a sponsorship. It's a partnership that we have, right? We get something in return for that. There's economic development incentives that come along with that, right? And we have managed, again, over the past year, we have managed to sever our relationship with small businesses in the downtown community, or the community as a whole. Then individuals, we attack them. And now,
Mayor.
excuse me, no, I am talking.
Well, this, as a point of order, it's not germane to the ordinance.
Absolutely germane. because
It's not germane to the
No,
ordinance.
You're finalizing the last relationship we're going to sever. I'm sure there will be more. We'll figure those out. Is now the Chamber of Commerce. That's who we're going after now. I have one more motion to amend this ordinance. We need to change the title because it's not specific enough. I want to make a motion to amend the title, a resolution establishing a policy for government intimidation of nonprofit corporations engaged in political activity who may engage in political activity. They haven't even engaged in it yet. Who may engage in political activity. That's my motion.
The chair's, is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
All right, is there any discussion on that, or I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll on that motion?
Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
No.
Councilmember Hunter Law,
No.
Mayor Grossman,
No.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Sorry again. Maybe it's my ears, I don't know. Can you please repeat that again one more time?
It's a motion to change the title, to say a resolution establishing a policy for government intimidation of a nonprofit corporation who may engage in political activity.
Well, it's accurate, so yes.
Bradburn,
No.
Motion fails. So we're back to the motion to adopt the resolution as it has been amended. And ask the clerk to call the roll. Yes.
Councilmember Hunter Law,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Nelson,
No.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Motion has been adopted. Our law director,
Clarify the ordinance was adopted with four affirmative,
4 votes, so without the emergency.
which just means that the emergency clause is not a.
Correct.
That's fine.
I'm going to relinquish the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That was a doozy. You did a marvelous job. It's a lot with Robert's rules, but we were able to have a mostly civil discourse. I appreciate that, Council. Item 15 is committee reports. So I think we had some committee meetings this week. Who would like to go first?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Safety Committee met 4/13/21, 1 p.m. here in the city building. All members were present. Had a number of items that were discussed. One of them was our incident command teams and critical incident response plan scheduling. We had a detailed report as far as how well that's gone in the city during the pandemic, staffing during the pandemic. Just to let the community know, we also use it for community events, snowstorms and other incidents. And anybody familiar with incident command, it can be expanded or contracted as it needs to be. We did have some discussion as far as a little bit of discussion is in regards to communications. One of the downfalls of most incident commands in an emergency is communication. And I can't remember the hurricane. Who was the hurricane that came through Louisiana under President Bush? Was that Katrina? Okay, I kept I want to say Andrew, but I'm thinking that's Florida. That was the Florida one. Okay, but when Katrina came through, one of the issues that was raised was or found out about was that Louisiana didn't know how bad it was. There was no communication. There was none. And if it wasn't for actually shortwave radio operators to inform the government, the agencies of how bad it was, and we do have a group of people here in Mason that are working on that right now as far as shortwave. In fact, I saw one of them, actually a ex-mayor at the water tower on Snyder Road. They're installing, I think, some equipment and antennas and that. And one of the things I did bring up, and I know the city manager will look at it, is the only thing that seems to be lacking in that is he was going to check into some satellite telephones for our incident command operations. If you don't have communications, you're not going anywhere. Police reported on drug activity. 2020 drug report, overdoses have declined by 25%, 2019 to 2020. The highest concentration of drug activity falls in Police District 4. I think that is the area of Councilmember Nelson and Councilmember Stricula, but that is not their fault. Okay, it is actually the hotel activities at 741 in the Kings Mill area. So that is the felony drug arrests in that area are up 20%. Misdemeanor arrests in that area are up over 100%. And the chief feels that this increased enforcement that we've had has resulted in the lessening of ODs. And that area has become a transient area. People stop in. It's just goes with the territory as far as the hotel. Increased use of Narcan has dropped overdose deaths from 4 in 2018 to 0 in 2020 in the city of Mason. We did, in regards to Councilmember Nelson's question about the Franklin response issue that they had up there, we did get some information on that. At the time, Franklin, according to the chief, Franklin had a much more severe problem than what you've had. But to be able to partner with them, there appears to be several labor and jurisdictional issues to partner with them at this time. But we'll see what you can do in regards to that. I do have a copy of the Warren County Overdose Bulletin for those that might want a copy. Based on population, Mason has a lower rate per person than many smaller communities, which is good. I do have that copy. If you would like a copy of it. As part of our emergency preparedness discussions, we had discussions about gas and fuel reserves. We also talked about the sirens countywide, which Councilmember Nelson had brought up at a previous council meeting. The bottom line is I have a chart if anybody wants it to show where they are, and they are basically for outdoor. If you're outdoor in regards to hearing the siren. Incident command, I did go back to snow, was used over 20 times. We did have some discussion about additional salt storage and the purchase of another wind plow, which goes back to responding to issues of snow emergencies. One of the things that a lot of people don't think is important, but I guess, how did you put it, Eric? If the toilet doesn't work, nothing works? I think that's what he said in the committee meeting. He said something like, sewer plant, okay? Sewer plant is very critical. A lot of people don't realize that. They are looking right now at a second electrical feed from Duke Energy to be able to have a continuous supply of energy so there's no issues with the sewer plant and its operation. The community center right now, it looks like our generator is able to provide 80% of the current needs, and they are currently looking at electrical distribution to be able to improve that. And one of the things for the community center, which I know we used it from, was it when we had the windstorm? I can't remember that wasn't Andrew. It wasn't Katrina. Ike, yes, when Ike. I know we had a number of areas of the city that did not have power. We had people going up to our city building or the rec center, community center for showers and charging, a thing like that. So basically what you want to do with the community center is to be able to go ahead and have those electrical needs met in the event we have some type of another issue with our power distribution from Duke. There has been some research by our public works, or the maintenance garage, I'll call it, in regards to possibility of going to electric vehicles. Basically, at this time, it looks a little costly, and recharge times don't seem to work based on current demand of basically a cruiser being used 16 out of 24 hours on the road. And the last point was a fire chief was there, Chief Rummingen. He did indicate that our third squad response time is about 1.5 minutes faster than when we have to call a mutual aid squad in. This is from current data from, we're running the third squad 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We will need additional manpower as this is to expand in the future. OT will cause too much cost and burnout, so we'll go ahead and probably address that later on. I think some of that may come up in the budget for this year, balance of this year and next year. And the chief brought up three things. The geography is very important, especially in a heart attack. It's also important in a fire. But geography, which is location, people to be able to run it. And on the third squad, it's critical to get people to the cath lab basically within 90 minutes, door to door and door to balloon or something like that is what he said. But basically, we had 33 successful cath lab transports, which is very good. Having been a former paramedic, those are the ones you save. You save those that have the chest pain, those that go into cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, the survival rate on that is not as good. I think I captured the high points in the meeting. Councilman Stricula, can you think of anything else I missed?
You address that chair, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mayor?
Certainly, it's fine during committee reports. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And Vice Mayor Gill? Okay. That finishes my committee report. Thank you.
Thank you for that very thorough report. Does anybody have any questions for Councilmember Bradburn?
Well, you did a great job. Thank you for the information.
Okay. And as I said, if anybody wants any of the information from the drug task force and the location of the sirens and stuff like that, I have it here. I just didn't make copies for everybody.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Who would like to go next?
Mayor.
Thank you.
We had a Board of Veterans Affairs meeting, and I'm just so excited. We have so much going on in this committee that it's just really fun. And I don't want to tell you too much because, well, first of all, we had a lady, Judy Pearson was there, and she is the Ohio State Ambassador to the Military Women's Memorial Foundation. And she actually lives right here in Mason, which is great. She's an amazing woman, and she spoke to us and had some great information, but I'm not going to give the information away because we're hoping that she'll come here and talk to you shortly. She's out of town right now. But so we are working on, from her idea, is a never forget garden. And she'll be here to give you more information about that. But we did discuss that. And the Gold Star and the Purple Heart flag are up and flying here at the municipal building. And we are working still on getting the banners up for May and November. So yeah, we just have a lot of good stuff going on right now. And it's funny because we finish a project and we're not even done with it yet. And we have all these other ideas that are going on. So it's a pretty fun committee to be on right now. And I'm feel honored to be on it along with TJ and Josh. So.
Thank you for that great news. I'm excited about what you shared at our last meeting. Would you mind filling us in on that in case someone missed it about the new memorial you're working on?
Oh yeah, so we're working on the Gold Star community. I feel sometimes gets a little bit left out of things. And so we are adding a Gold Star bench to our memorial. And a Gold Star family is a family that has lost a loved one in the line of duty. And we have a number of Gold Star families within our community, as well as, of course, across the country. So we're going to be honoring them. And we're still working on exactly what that's going to look like. But once we have it finalized, we'll make sure to bring it to you guys so you guys can see it. And then, of course, when we unveil it, and it will always be there for everyone to come and look at. But just trying to really remember everyone who, you know, has made the ultimate sacrifice for our country and honor them.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased that you guys are working on that. It's just going to be lovely. It really is truly lovely. Thank you so much. Anybody else with a committee report? Councilmember Honor-Law?
Thank you, Mayor. The Downtown Committee did meet on the 22nd. It was a little unusual meeting because not the city staff normally will have something for that we will be meeting for in a committee or a commission or a member of the committee or commission. Well, this meeting, since we meet monthly, the staff didn't have anything to discuss, and neither did Councilmember Nelson or myself, and Councilmember Stricula wasn't able to make the meeting. So we didn't really have anything to discuss. We had 4 members from the public that did attend who did bring up some topics that we discussed. Most of them were discussed here tonight about downtown and the development project and how that works, whether or not, why there's not more than one bidder and things like that. And we went into detail on that, on why, because it all goes through executive session when the city owns property that's being discussed. So we thought we clarified that, but I thought it was a good meeting still. I'd probably make a recommendation that if a council member that's on the committee or staff doesn't have something on the agenda, we will skip that meeting instead of making it automatic. So maybe we'll work to either have items to discuss or bring up to tell Eric, saying, hey, this is something I have an idea. The three of us would discuss and bring up. And if nobody has an item, we could cancel that meeting. So that way we don't, I know staff's busy and we don't want to have them meeting when we don't have anything on an agenda to discuss. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Can I add to that? I'm also on the downtown committee meeting. We did talk about, so in the, not the last one, but the prior one, the downtown committee recommended to council that we come up with some kind of a development design for downtown so that we're not piecemealing everything, so we can look at the whole picture of what we want. We did discuss that. The city hasn't really made any moves on that yet, but we hope to do something on that shortly, because the whole purpose of doing this is so that we can see where this Cohen project is going to fit into our downtown picture, and if it is going to fit into the picture or not. We've not only has the committee, but also residents who have come to these meetings have stressed the fact that we don't want to be piecemealing stuff. Also, and I've said this before, these downtown committee meetings have been going on for years and years and years, and we haven't really seen anything different happen to our downtown. And since I've been on the committee, my point is, if we're not going to do anything, let's not waste everybody's time. If I'm going to come to these committees, I want to get something done. So I want to come to, I want a plan of action of what we're going to do. I want goals and dates that we're going to do it by. So I don't foresee us not meeting, because there's so much to do. And again, this proposal, this revitalization plan from 2002 has great ideas that we still need to address and look into to see if we can do some of this. So I think between going through this, trying to grab some of these ideas and implement them, maybe getting together the volunteers that used to be together back in the day when they were actually making things happen when this first came out. That'd be great to somehow figure out a way to put those people back together again and get this moving. So between that and then the design plan, hopefully that the city, will move on shortly, that we can get some kind of a picture and really begin moving forward on doing something productive, because we can sit here and talk about it forever, or we can actually make an impact and do something. So that's my hope for it. I hope I'm not wasting my time being on this committee if we don't do anything. So let's do something, get something done positive.
Okay. And to add to that, I understand your point about wanting to drive it as a committee, but as the mayor, I chose that we would consider options and work through things as a group of 7 in executive session until the time is right. So I just want to assure the public that we're not sitting on our hands. We're working through things. It's taking time, and I get it. I've got 3 members of council that are disgruntled about that, but we're being as inclusive as we can for now. And when it's time, we will be showing the public more of what we can. It's taking time. So anyway, thank you. And we don't mean to at all seem exclusive of the public or the downtown community. So I just wanted to respond to that. Does anybody else have a committee report? We did meet as a policy and legislation committee last week. I mentioned that when we were discussing Resolution 6. We discussed the nonprofit partnerships and ways to amend that resolution. We had a hard stop after 1 hour, so we didn't really have a whole lot of time to finish it out. But I wanted to just mention to all of council that our committee invited members of the chamber board and the president of the chamber, as well as the Maid Chamber Community Development Corporation Board, and we also invited Government Affairs Committee from the Maid Chamber to come to our committee and talk through this and to collaborate with us, and they would not do that, long story short. And so we have an email chain that we can certainly forward to all of council if all of council wants to see that exchange. The committee has that, and I do have with me a copy of the survey that the chamber sent out in December of 2020, which started to raise the question. In our work session, the question was raised about the Made Chamber survey and some of the questions in it, which actually did ask to rank or rate current elected officials in Mason and Deerfield on a variety of topics on a scale of 1 to 5. And I think 6 meant I don't know enough. So it was kind of an abstain, I guess. They gave us some materials about their organization as a whole and some materials about their government affairs committee at the work session, which was great. We had a lot of questions for them. We weren't able to get answers. Sorry, trying to pull that out. We weren't able to get as many answers as I had hoped about the chamber and what they anticipated doing with the survey that they sent out, but they did assure us that their government affairs committee is taking a look at that, and they are yet to respond to the data that they gathered from the survey. And that was also written to us today in a letter that came from the chamber. But in the government affairs committee, it clearly identifies their that they would identify and cultivate those interested in business growth and development for community leadership roles and elected positions. The committee could serve as a catalyst on issues relevant and important to the business community, which is all great. It can be an issue, it can be a particular stand on a particular issue raised by an elected or appointed government official or candidate seeking an elected or appointed governmental position. And, you know, I never knew this about the Government Affairs Committee or the Chamber until we had that work session. So we got a little bit of information. So, Council, I can have Eric make scans of the survey in case some of you didn't see the survey. It's now offline. But we really did try repeatedly to engage and collaborate with the Chamber in our committee setting. And it's unfortunate that some of council tonight engaged in personal attacks and falsehoods like vendettas. And Mr. Hackey, I'll just say it right now, your comments were wrong about the motivation for good, sound public policy when dealing with nonprofits. But we did talk about some of the things that occurred in 2020 with the chamber and the elevated level of political activity that we hadn't really seen before, and then with the survey and moving forward. So it's important for us, if we're spending public money, to know, you know, what to expect from that. And it's absolutely the chamber's right to choose what they want to do with that. So that's the end of my report. It's now time for old new business, which is item 16.
Mayor, real fast.
Yes.
Sorry, I guess this would apply with old new business, but I thought you said that the resolution had nothing to do with the chamber.
No, it doesn't. But I wanted you guys to know, since you made all of these allegations tonight, that
But policy and legislation meeting was all about the chamber.
no, it was about both items.
Give money, okay.
It was about both items, and we discussed, well, we wanted to discuss with the chamber some different things about pathways moving forward, and the chamber
Resolution.
declined
Resolution had
to.
nothing to do with the chamber.
The resolution is a neutral resolution that would apply to all nonprofits. It is not we had a learning experience with the chamber, but if you think the chamber did something that deserves retaliation, please let us know. Okay, you're making these allegations. It's unfortunate. It's unprofessional.
You're saying you spent your entire committee report on the
Right,
chamber.
we discussed that. I wanted to assure the public.
I was just trying to clarify for my.
Yeah, well, and you're being sarcastic and rude and disrespectful, and that's not okay.
That was a very.
But I wanted to assure the public.
Clarify with everybody that.
Yeah, I wanted to assure the public that we have tried and tried to meet with the chamber, the Government Affairs Committee, and the Maid Chamber CDC to try to understand what their plans are and what they want to do moving forward. We don't really understand completely what they want to do with their community development corporation with specifics and specific plans. So we have been inviting them to no avail. All right, old and new business, item 16.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Chance.
yeah, I've got a couple things. Councilmember Strickler, thank you for bringing that up because deductive reasoning, anyone sitting in here, anyone watching this can easily see that resolution 2021-6 was geared towards the chamber. I mean, you just sit there and you went and said, well, we invited the chamber to talk to them in our policy and legislation committee. They didn't show up. So poof, guess what? Here comes this resolution. Secondly, I would like to, Kurt, pick up where we left off. I'm not going to belabor this point, but I've got an idea. I'm not on the downtown committee. Who is? Councilmember Strickler, Councilmember Hunwald, Councilmember. I got an idea. Hey, let's take a look at these things that I'm going to show everyone. And maybe let's start trying to emulate like a plan and a process. And again, all of this that we're looking at, it's not developer driven. It is community driven. And again, so here's Hamilton's. And if anyone's been to downtown Hamilton, they've done a fabulous job, an incredible job. But you can go through there and like I said, this one's kind of short and sweet. If you want to go to, I don't know what the next one, online surveys, you'll see that a lot. Look at Loveland's. Loveland's it's 204 pages. And you know what a lot of those 204 pages is? It's a survey of all the people involved, of all the stakeholders. Oh, the chamber, a lot of the downtown businesses, the residents, everybody. I would encourage our downtown committee, Councilmember Hunterlaw, if you guys need a topic to discuss, take a look at this. Can you go to Milford? Milford. If anyone's been to Milford, it's 56 pages. Look at this. And now this isn't all downtown, but you can see through here, downtown is a throughput of what they've done. And Milford has done an incredible job. Love Milford. All right, but the one question that we're always talking about is Lebanon. If we take a look, and again, I'm going to encourage our downtown committee meeting, look at Lebanon's. I would encourage you to look at what they have done, downtown Lebanon master plan. And it's 176 pages. It's 176 pages. This is comprehensive. This is long-term thinking. This is how business is done. This is how it's done smartly. This is not just a haphazard, oh, we get this one developer, the only guy that's, if we open this up to all these other developers, we will have everyone in the country running to Mason, Ohio to look at this and do something like this for us. So again, I'm not going to belabor this, but I would encourage the public, everyone in here, to take a look at this, and I would encourage our downtown committee meeting not to say, well, we don't have anything to discuss. We're talking about changing the face of our downtown forever. And we're sitting there on our hands saying we don't have anything to discuss. Here's plenty. I'd encourage all of you to take a look at it and see what some of our other surrounding, because we said, you know, we're doing the exact same thing as Lebanon. We're not. We ended up with the same developer, but the process is not even close. So and Eric, I don't know who, can we make this, can we pass this to all of council? And so everybody can take a look at it and review it. I would encourage everyone. So that's all I have.
Mayor, let's, for the downtown committee, let's read through all three of these plans by our next committee meeting so that we are educated on these and so we can discuss them. Are you done? Okay. I have something.
Yes, so the comprehensive plan that you have is full of information about just the downtown district?
this is a revitalization plan. It would be good, like I said, we really want a design plan to be brought forward so we can look at what it would look like as a whole.
Yeah.
But we don't have, obviously, we don't have any processes in place because of how this is come about. I think it's really important that we put some process in place. We don't have any process in place. And now we've got one developer who comes to a council member and next thing you know, we're giving him $2 million taxpayer land.
That's not true.
It is true. And I think
Not
that we
true.
need to have a format on how this is supposed to be properly done so that this doesn't happen again, so that it's properly vetted. And this might help us as a guideline to be able to do that.
I think it's a good idea. I think we should all read through it, all of them.
Okay, and I think he, as I recall him presenting to us, he read that publication and other studies from Mason. I don't know how much money we've spent on those, but you can certainly come up with some kind of layout. But I think we would be a lot farther ahead had we worked more efficiently together as a group of 7 in executive session. There's also 2020 has been difficult on everybody, including staff, and the momentum that I thought we would have in 2020 just slowed way, way down. But we're going to get somewhere. To say that we're just sitting on our hands or to make nasty comments. I'm really, really happy for Milford and Hamilton and Lebanon and Loveland, and all of those communities have the developer that has approached us, who helped spearhead and help them find success. I'm not sure when their publications came out, but there's no reason why we can't do more than one thing at once. Does anybody else have anything for old new business?
I do.
Yes.
So I'm really, really disappointed with how we've been treating the chamber. And I'm not just going to sit here and allow some of these falsehoods to be thrown out there. So I'm going to stand up for the chamber. We had a work session, and I've never been so embarrassed in my life. We invited the chamber came, and we attacked them. It was horrible, and I never ever want to be part of that again. The chamber did come, and the chamber didn't come to these meetings, and I'm sure they probably won't anymore because they don't deserve to be attacked. But the chamber did come, and she made a point to say, I am not the chamber. The chamber is the board, and we need to get the whole board here. And the board was there. And unfortunately, all that we did was attack them. So I don't think it's fair to sit here and say, well, the chamber never comes, the chamber never does this, chamber does a lot. And the chamber is filled with professionals who act professionally and do really good things for our city and work great. Really, the chamber works great with our city staff, and they have great relationships. And so I just don't want to continue to throw the chamber under the bus because they don't deserve that. And I just think it's not very professional of us either. So going forward, I'd prefer that we avoid any kind of negative conversation about the chamber in a public setting like this.
Yes, I would agree. And that's why I didn't have a negative conversation about the chamber. You guys have been negative. And I don't recall the chamber being attacked. Of course, that was a work session. It was not recorded. I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that, but there was no attack, but questions were raised. Should we be spending money on an organization that's acting like a political PAC? And I will say that the chamber was very politically active in 2020. It just was. And they're a 501c6. It's their right. They were very active. It's a great organization. I have always regarded it fondly. I'm so sad that you guys are seeing it this way and that you've turned this sound public policy on how to spend public funds into such a negative thing, but it is good policy and it's conservative policy at that. All right, anybody else? Sorry, let's move on to item 17, recognition of visitors, please. Anybody from the House that would like to be recognized or online?
Mayor, yes, we have 3 guests online. I'd just like to remind those guests that if you wish to address council, you need to hit your little raised hand icon. I do have an individual, Mr. Mark Lords. If you would like to address council, you may do so at this time. Mr. Lords, you may address council.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mark Lortz. I reside at 5145 Minuteman Court in Mason, Ohio. I'm also the owner of the Common Beer Company, which is at 126 East Main Street in downtown. So there's three things I would like to address to the council and to the city, for that matter. First, I want to apologize for not being there in person. I know everyone likes to see the beard that I've been so avidly working on over the last 3 years. And Jeff, I do want to also give you kudos for yours as you continue to let yours grow. So all kidding aside, there are 2 points that I want to make in regards to 2 things that were discussed this evening. The first one is about not having anybody approach the city for any of the property that is under discussion with the developer Cohen. I want to remind the city council that over 2 years ago, the Common Beer Company did approach the city and did talk about an offer for that land. And we have subsequently, since the Cohen referendum, also asked again. So I want to make sure everyone's clear that there have been offers in the past, and those offers were ignored until the referendum with Cohen came through. The last point I'd like to make is in directly towards the topic about the current vote or referendum about nonprofits. As a small business owner and as an avid member of the Small Business Chamber, Made Chamber, I want to make it clear to the Mason residents that this is absolutely a resolution that was passed to silence the voice of your small business community. And I want to point out that the 4 that voted for this referendum to be passed, I feel as a small business owner and as a taxpayer, have a clear directive as to the motive behind this referendum, and that is to silence the small business community that you support and that supports the city of Mason. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lortz. I saw a couple of hands in the house. Sir in the black t-shirt, would you like to come on up? Thank you. If you could just state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Nate Thiem. I'm at 5256 Greenhouse Drive in Mason. I wanted to address the whole property thing. I love the plans that you showed there, Mr. Nelson, on Milford and Lebanon and all those kind of folks. I work for a company that's our job. We design stories for theme parks and amusement parks and corporations and corporate branding and all that kind of fun stuff. But the whole thing has to start with a plan, has to start with a story, not one little iconic thing. I've walked away from clients because they want to piecemeal stuff. And I was told, hey, time out. Let's wait a little bit and let's come up with a comprehensive plan and do it in phases. If we don't have all the money to do it now, let's do a little bit now, a little bit next time, and a little bit the next time after that. That gives you a comprehensive and cohesive plan of what the place is supposed to look like. I'm not saying anybody's been sitting on their hands. I've been in Mason since '99. Downtown hasn't changed, except for the one little park over there by the barber shop, which I'm not really sure what that was for, but that's okay. But yeah, we love all these other areas. We love all these other communities. It's not fair with, I guess, Loveland, because they have the bike trail and the destination and makes it a little bit more easy to develop areas around that. But we have such a cool area and everything is growing around Mason except downtown. Nothing is happening. It's because we don't have a plan. And I haven't seen any of the ideas or the specific plans that the developer, however that came about, wants to put in there. But if there's not a longer term plan, I can almost guarantee it's not going to fit. So why haven't we tried to do a plan like they've done at other places?
Well, we have done things in the past, but the thing is, and I really appreciate your comments, we don't own the district. It's owned by multiple property owners. And so to make a plan with property that doesn't belong to us without doing some other things first. Those things need to happen in executive session. And so I can't explain, there's certain things that we just can't explain just yet. And so it's frustrating for me because, you know, people on council understand this, but they're not admitting that we do have a process that we have to go through, but some of that has to happen in private before we can do it out in public. And that's in the public's interest because it controls costs. And when we're talking about land acquisition and disposition, if we came out and drew a beautiful picture of the whole district on property we don't own, all of a sudden we're in Manhattan, New York with prices. And that's not in the public interest, and it may end up making it impossible to accomplish. And so I know that's not what you guys want to hear, but you know, I'm really trying to take steps in that direction. And I'm trying to do it as a group of 7 in executive session. And I hear you, I really hear you. And I just can't wait for the day where we can come out in the open and really explain it. I'm limited. I can't answer that, sir.
Can't you say yes or no?
But no, we don't have a public plan. No, not a drawing, not a layout or a drawing. We have a written plan.
The businesses down there, they have some input. They might have some say.
Well, there has
Sell
been
it. Give them tax abatements, whatever we got to do to help pay for the facades or whatever we want to do with that kind of thing. I've heard the rumors of the 15-year tax break that the developer's going to supposedly get on the free property. Why does he get it and not the other folks?
Well, that's another thing that we need to work through. And I'm not opposed to that, to help stimulate new development. But we're talking about a district that's already developed. It's not raw land, and it has multiple property owners.
Neither was Lebanon, neither was Milford.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody was the
bringing that
exact
up.
same way. If you have a plan and we can sell it to the people that are there.
Well, you may not know everything that went on in those jurisdictions because they may have had dialogues in executive session prior to coming out with those plans. We don't really have enough facts on that one. I have no idea. I have to call each one and ask them, you know, what was the process that you went through? I know the chamber has surveyed residents and has, you know, told us in the past that they were going to share that with the city, but they haven't given us that. And I think there was community input in the past with that comprehensive plan. And there certainly was community input in the past with the plaza developments, big time community input back then, and with the Downtown Mason Association. So I'm really trying, sir. I really am. And I really care. And I know we can come up with something amazing for our residents. It's just going to take some time. And I'm sorry that we're moving so slow.
Mayor.
Do you have anything else, sir?
No, that was it.
Okay. Thank you. It sounds like you have a really neat job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It starts with a plan. You got to have
Yeah.
a beginning, a middle, and an end, or you're never going to get there.
I know.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you for is it Mr. Theme? Yes. That's kind of fitting considering what you do, right? Yeah, I like that. Hey, but Mr. Theme, I'm glad you brought that up, and I would like to make sure everybody heard that Loveland, Milford, Lebanon, and Hamilton, well, it wasn't behind the scenes. It was community engagement. So I hear you loud and clear. They didn't own all the property where Loveland didn't own it, Lebanon didn't own it. So thank you for saying that. And I just want to make sure that is loud and clear.
I think they did a combination of both, and Lebanon and Loveland did own the land for the projects. Well, the projects that Mr. Cohn did, Loveland's kind of piecemealed, really. But I mean, they have their study, but I mean, there are limits. You can't
I was going to say there's a 204-page piece.
Yeah, but you can't come through like a tornado and wipe the whole thing out like it's raw land. You can't do that. It's going to take time. All right. Anybody else from the audience? They're in the back. Do we have anybody else waiting online? Okay, thank you.
Well, once again, my name is Chris Cafaro. I live at 4886 Elizabeth Court, Mason, Ohio. Mr. Theme, I love good stories. I would love to hear a story about what Mason's going to look like. But I had a quick question about the Synesis construction. Kurt, can Can you just explain the process when you selected Synesis Construction to do the work at the roundabout? Was it a bid process or how did that work?
Yeah, actually, this year we started using electronic bidding. So we do it through Bid Express, and it is free for bidders to sign up and review all the plans and specifications. And then if you want to bid on a project, it's $35. If you want to bid on unlimited projects, it's $50 a month. Contractors that do a lot of ODOT work will do the $50. Otherwise, it's $35 every bid that you want to submit on.
Okay.
So on this one, we had 6 bidders.
Okay.
They, just to give you an idea, they ranged from Synesis was the lowest at 4.897 million, and the high bidder was 5.3 million.
Thank you for that information.
Sure.
You're really good. Not only you gave me your name and number for the pedestrians was great, but you answered my next question was how many bids were there? So if I heard you correctly, it only costs $35 or $50 to bid on a project.
Right.
And there were 6 bids on just that one project.
Correct.
And we've had 0 bids on the downtown development project. Is that correct?
We have one proposal, and we're analyzing that and trying to work on a piece of legislation that we can take through the legislative process. It hasn't been approved. What we approved was the ability for staff to negotiate a development agreement. We have some city-owned land that's raw land along Mason Montgomery, and in the middle of it, this particular development owns a piece of property. So, and then he's asking us to contribute the contiguous acreage around his piece so that he can put in this $20 million development. And so we're trying to analyze it. It has not passed. What passed was the ability to analyze it, which requires staff to enter a negotiation process to create a development agreement. And typically, when someone comes to Mason that wants to develop, say it's a restaurant or a box store or whatever it may be, they'll approach the city first. This situation's unique, but it's not, we're using the same procedures that we normally would. And we're doing it properly and by the book, I promise.
I hope so. I just find it amusing that there were 6 bids on a roundabout, but there were none for the downtown development.
Well, that's a whole different industry, and it's
You're right. It's a lot smaller industry compared to developing the story that is downtown Mason.
Can I try?
Sure.
Thank you for your question. So I think what's people are getting confused on, the difference here is that the city, because they wouldn't be a part of this at all, okay? The city owns the land. So the developer then came to the city and it went into executive session. We can't have a public meeting on it because then we're negotiating a deal. Otherwise, if they wanted to buy anything on, let's say they wanted to buy, let's see, pick a spot between Yoast, let's say Yoast Pharmacy and Quatman's, okay? They wouldn't come to the city and we wouldn't take bids on that. They'd go to the owners of that and say, hey, we want to buy your properties, demolish it and build a great big new thing and then put you back in it, right? And then it comes to the city for zoning and planning and we approve it as long as it fits. But other than that, the city doesn't take bids on it. Why would the city take bids on something, on a development program, on anything downtown if they don't own it, right? It's not our deal.
It's a pretty hot real estate market right now. Would you not take bids on your house if it was for sale?
So I've lived here my entire life.
Great.
Okay. And so I've seen this downtown my entire life sit just like this. I asked the city manager how many years he's been here. Is 25 years. I said, have we ever had a developer come to the city down to invest in our downtown like this, where he's willing to spend $20 million of his money to be able to have a situation right there? I think it's a game changer for our downtown. All the businesses are going to have walk-in people that can walk. Common Beer, Yoast, everybody will be walking downtown because people will be living right in the downtown. I'm really excited about a development like this, just like I was for the Oak, what is it? Was it Mason Oaks? You know what I mean? Where we added property. Anytime we can add more residents right in downtown. If you look at the Liberty Center, you go over there and see, they developed that area that was nothing, right? A developer came in and what'd they do? They added retail, they added restaurants, they added business, they added hotels. What'd they add? Residents. They created their own plans. They know people could walk to support those businesses. We're trying to add more residents to our downtown. At least that's what I see as something that could really help our downtown and change it like it's never been changed before. Would just be one step of helping these businesses thrive downtown.
Let that be step one of the story and go with it. But I'm confused. How long have you lived here?
All my life.
Okay, so how many years is that?
57 years.
57, okay. I've been here for 7, going on 8. We moved here from Davidson and Huntersville, North Carolina. Davidson, North Carolina, the downtown, you should look at their website too. They've done an immaculate job, and they probably have half the budget that the city of Mason has. So I appreciate all the hard work. I want to see downtown take off as well. I want to hear the story, but I'm just confused. I don't understand the secrecy behind the executive session when it comes to the story for downtown Mason.
No, it was about the city owning the property downtown. And when somebody comes to us, if you came to us and said, I want to buy a property, it goes into executive session. We cannot discuss it publicly.
So when Mark Lortz offered to buy the property, what happened?
Into executive session.
And did
Am I
you
allowed
tell him
to
no?
admit that?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Right?
So when in
He
executive
told us
session-
that.
Anybody comes to the city about buying anything, the 7 members of council discuss it in executive session.
Mayor, can I talk real quick? Sir?
Can I
Hang on.
finish my point? No, the only other thing I'd like to add, Eric, does the city have a comprehensive plan? Okay, how long have we had it? How many years have we had a comprehensive plan? Can residents go on the comprehensive plan and look and see and compare it to what Loveland and Hamilton and the other cities? How does our comprehensive plan differ from the ones that Councilmember Chance brought forward? Because I know we have one and we've had it, a master plan, for quite some time.
We've gone through a comprehensive planning process. I'd imagine the first one was probably in the 80s, maybe even something in the late 70s.
And it's for the whole city, correct?
63.
Is it for the whole entire city?
Yes, it's a broad plan that tries to foresee development in the city and we're really rooted in zoning. The current comprehensive plan, 2010, doing a minor update, probably is ready for a significant update. It treats downtown as just one component of the comprehensive plan, so it does speak to it, but like it speaks to other areas. So comprehensive planning is fairly consistent throughout the growth of the city. It could be you could compare it to anything with other cities. I believe what was being shown, I've not read them all, but was specific to downtown, looking at more master plan in a downtown area, the cities that were up there. And maybe one of them was a component of, I can't speak to those, but yes, you could compare them. They're all going to speak to the specifics of a community. It's.
And Mayor, can I address Mr. Cafaro? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that you're dead on, correct. And this has been my problem from day one, is that we really need to publish a request for proposal soliciting developers, not only across the state, but across the nation. We haven't done that. No one's come to us because we've never said, hey, we paid $2 million for this property to clear it and to buy it. We'll give it away for free. If we did that, we would have a ton of developers in here saying, hey, I'll take it. So, and constantly using an executive session as a crutch is not the way to do it. We really shouldn't be having large, which we normally don't. I would have to say this case is wrong. We shouldn't be having executive session unless it is just to buy the land or to not buy the land. We're not buying the land, we're giving the land away for free. So in my vision, we should have been in front of the public from day one, and we didn't, and we still don't do it. And I think we're actually in violation of executive session. So I agree with you. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of the public. I wish the public would pay attention, because if more of the public knew what we were doing, they would not approve of it. they would be angry. But the problem is that people don't pay attention. Therefore, things happen.
Councilmember Nelson, have we been in executive session illegally?
I believe we have, yes.
Okay, you're wrong.
Okay,
And you
well,
know that. We announce it for the acquisition or disposition of property, and you should never tell the public
I believe
something like that ever.
I believe strongly that.
But that is what you believe
in
is different from
violation.
the law and the facts.
Well,
That's gaslighting.
opinion
You should
versus
not
my
be doing
opinion.
it.
Mayor, if I may,
Mr. Bradburn?
Ms. Nelson, if you feel there is a violation, I suggest you take it to the Ohio Ethics Commission.
I've already been in the process of looking into it.
Well, don't be in the process. Do it.
I
Do it.
am.
Do it.
I am.
Good.
Real quick,
Because I'm getting
That-
tired of the accusations.
Mr. Cafaro.
It's one moment. We just need to be really, really clear because Councilmember Nelson accused this entire council of doing something illegal. You were all in the executive session committees. It's not true.
Okay.
We were there under the direction and guidance of our law director. We were in there lawfully. And you have to understand that acquisition, which is the purchase, or disposition, which is the sale or lease or whatever it is that we do there, it's important that we're in executive session. The law provides for that. It helps. It's in the public interest. It helps control costs. We can do a combination of both, but we almost always,
Can I ask
we
one
start in executive session. One moment. We spent millions and millions of dollars on acreage at our last meeting. All of those conversations were in executive session. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'll be quick. I love controlling costs, but I'd rather spend money on the story so we all understand what's going on. As a taxpayer, I don't mind spending the money with a consultant or Mr. Thiem's company to create a vision. Councilmember Honerlaw, you said there is a plan, but I believe I heard Mr. Hansen say it needs a significant update, correct?
It's Mayor.
A minor update, it is coming due for a comprehensive planning process, yes.
Okay. And the reason we're confused and the public is confused is because of reckless comments like you just heard, accusing us of violating the law.
Did I make a reckless comment?
Okay.
No, I'm asking a question. Did I make a reckless comment?
No, not you, Councilmember Nelson, by leading the public to believe that we've been in violation of the law or that we've been mistreating the public.
It's my fault for not paying attention until COVID. I just started paying attention because I was bored and there was nothing else to do. And now I'm glad, but I'm embarrassed that I haven't been paying attention because there's a lot of interesting stuff to learn here. It provides a lot of laughter and amusement too.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad you came. I really am. And it was very nice to meet you today.
Can I mention one more thing?
Sure.
In regards to Councilmember Chance, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just real quick, I want everyone to understand too that, Councilmember Honerlaw, and we've talked about, hey, downtown hasn't been developed in so many amount of years. Let's keep something in consideration. In 2018, you guys heard me talk about it before. It was a little thing called Issue 4, that the chamber literally picked up the cross and ran it across the goal line. And I think it was 78-22 was in favor. And you know what Issue 4 did? It took care of our density issue. We could have never, ever developed what we're trying to develop right now unless we had Issue 4 passed. So first of all, I think we all need to collectively say thank you to the chamber because that's what they did. So as of 2018, we were not able to do this type of development until Issue 4 was passed, latter of 2018, so November of 18. Secondly, our narrative changes, if you guys notice that. It's like Loveland, well, they didn't own the land, Lebanon owned the land, and then it's like, well, if they own the land, well, we better go into executive session. Well, again, it's just not consistent. And Mr. Honerlaw, I think you should understand and know this by now. Our comprehensive plan looks at everything. Green space, commercial, residential, infrastructure. It's a balance of our city. And I honestly tell people all the time, that is something we have done phenomenal with. I mean, if you look at the surrounding area of Mason, Ohio, and we're revered. Everybody looks at us, so major kudos to the city. The difference is we don't have a comprehensive downtown plan, in which we're all recognizing needs to happen. And that's all I'm saying. And I think that makes perfect sense.
Thank you. In regards to the nonprofit referendum you guys passed, I think I heard the number, but how much does the city of Mason donate to nonprofits annually? Was it?
It depends. We have an $8,000 cap per nonprofit, which are, I think we've done about 4 this year. Do you want to go ahead and address that?
Yeah,
You look ready.
probably
Total number, yeah.
change the language. We don't donate to nonprofits. We enter into service agreements
Okay.
with some nonprofits based on the services they provide. So I believe this year the Humane Society has a service agreement. The Historic Society has a service agreement. And the ARCS, Abuse and Rape Crisis Center. Do they have one? And Women Walking West. I don't know if we've done that this year. Those would typically be the 4.
So those service agreements or donations, I'm sorry, I'm using the improper terminology.
Yeah.
Are they less than $25,000, less than 50? How does that, is there a number on that?
In theory, they could vary based on the services. Typically, those 4 have been around $8,000.
Each, okay.
And typically, the previous program, the expectation is often that they match. So, but we're trying to shift to the last several years to it's more of a service agreement. In the past, it has been more of a donation, which is why maybe we contribute funds to support their mission because it dovetails with ours.
I guess
increasingly, it's a service agreement where we pay amount of dollars based on services they provide.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. So I guess my point is, why even the need for a referendum for such a insignificant amount? Couldn't you just say no on the front end instead of changing the definition of what the city, I've never heard of this. I just was sitting here tonight trying to learn as much as I could, but why are we spending time and resources on something so small in the big picture of the city of Mason?
Since I brought it up originally, I think it's just a matter, there has to be a proper expenditure of public funds. And to spend public funds to go ahead in political activities such as endorsements, rankings, and ratings of individuals is not proper. I don't care if it's a buck. It's not right.
Are you allowed to say no on the front end instead of retroactively taking it back, vetting them on the front?
It had never been vetted before. Okay.
Yeah, if I could weigh in. So the resolution that we adopted just doesn't tell the organization what it can and can't do. Just says if you want to come to the city and ask for tax dollars to be given or provided to your organization, you won't use those dollars to engage in political activity. And that's what the resolution is designed to do. So it's not, so that's the real question. It's on the organization. Do you want to agree that you won't use our money for political activity? If you do, you can be funded.
How do they know what they're agreeing to? Whatever. It seems like a small amount of money to create a resolution for not a lot. Sorry. Just Mayor Grossman, you said it was very, very clear, I believe what your statement was, but it was clear as mud to me listening in the audience. I don't know if anyone else understood the resolution. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Grafano, just to further in, so if it's $1, the question is, should you get, the question is, does the organization receiving that $1 from the city want to agree that it won't use it for political activity? If you do, we'll give you that $1. If you don't get that $1. So it's not us saying we're willing to fund every nonprofit organization if they will agree not to use our money for political activity.
Right, but you're not even funding that many or sponsoring or, okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so the impetus is theirs. It's not us saying, no, we're not going to fund you. It is them saying whether they will or will not engage in political activity.
Okay, and just my last question was, so the city of Mason doesn't have a plan like Milford, Loveland, what were the other ones? Help me out here.
Yes, not an artistic rendering. No, not yet. That doesn't mean that's not going to happen, but we don't have it yet.
Okay. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right.
I just wanted to address a couple things real quick. I wanted to let Mr. Kafaro sit down though, because he said it up there so long.
Yeah, we forgot to tell him about the 5-minute limit, but that's okay because it's your first time.
Well,
Thank you.
I think he spoke for less than 5 minutes. I think we took up his time.
He may have.
I
He
think-
may have.
I think he was just fine. Just a couple of points. One, on the nonprofit issue that was brought up, and I think the vice mayor did an okay job explaining it, but it's not that that nonprofit won't spend our dollar. It's that if we give them money and they spend any money on political activity, right? The resolution was pretty vague, right? It's not just our money that's going, because especially with the chamber, our money wasn't going to fund political activity, but it just makes sure that the chamber won't receive any of our money and engage in political activity, right? So it's not that they're just certifying that they won't spend our dollars or your dollars, really, because it's not ours, it's yours, on political activity, just any money or any political activity, right? So that's just one clarification there. One question you asked was, it's a hot real estate market, so, wouldn't you want to put your house up for sale? Councilmember Arnold actually didn't answer your question. He just said he lived here forever, right? How many bids are you going to get on your house if you don't put a for sale sign out? I mean, probably zero, right? Not going to get a whole lot of people knocking up. So that's why anything has been done. Councilmember Chance mentioned it. He did a great job. We couldn't have developed downtown based on the density issues that were built into our charter. We needed a charter amendment to change that, to open it up for these developments. We haven't even changed the zoning code yet. So we don't even know that the development that's on the table right now is still not, still want to comply with our zoning code, because we still haven't changed that yet. So that's on there. And then finally, with executive session, we heard that an awful lot. There are reasons that we need to go into executive session: acquisition, disposition of property, salaries. There was a safety briefing for council, right? There's certain reasons that we would go into executive session, but all of those reasons are to benefit the taxpayer. So if it doesn't really benefit the taxpayer, right? If it wasn't in executive session that we are looking at a developer who's come in and offered or wants to do something with this land, and now that drives the price up, which would be to your benefit, then we shouldn't be talking about an executive session. And just because it's legal and we've done it and we've followed the reasons to go into executive session, just because we can, again, doesn't mean we should, right? There's better ways that we can be doing this, more open, more transparent ways. We use that word a lot. We don't really actually do it. There's a lot more transparent ways. So hopefully I addressed some of your concerns, but I wanted to let you sit down first. So thanks. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Pining, you want to come on up?
My name's Terry Pining. I live at 5056 Village Green Drive. Mayor Grossman, I just want to say, I hope you hold Council Member Nelson's feet to the fire on what she said tonight on record. And if there is no illegal activity found to be had in this council, she should be removed. I cannot believe what you said tonight. That is really unprofessional, to sit here and accuse this council of doing illegal things. So I hope that you go to the ethics committee, and I hope that they find that there is nothing that they did wrong. And if that's the case, I hope you're removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pining. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I know it's late, so I'll keep it short. My name's Gina Sanders, and I live at 221 Kings Mills Road, right in the heart of everything we're talking about tonight, which is why I'm here. Have been starting to pick up watching as I've gotten word that all of this stuff is starting to be talked about, and you hear the words plan, and you hear the words master plan, and all these different things going on. And I guess the one thing I just feel it's really important to say tonight is that your community looks to you to share with us how we can have input. And I know there's probably been opportunities that I don't know about. I know I loved it that you said you were bored over COVID and started watching what's going on. And whatever the reason is, the fact that we're all getting here is really great. And I just think that it's so important that the community trusts you to be transparent with us and keep it current. 2010 sounds like not that long ago, but wow, it's 11 years later. And specifically for downtown, the thing I wanted to mention, my family has the benefit, we get to walk right down the path to downtown and enjoy all the little treasures. And to see a plan of the community's plan that they can embody and embrace and feel like they had a say in what goes in downtown, I think it would mean a lot to Mason. How do we know what we want if we're not given the opportunity? And all night I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, as a student of Mason City, I've been asked by Jonathan Cooper and their school system over and over and over, what would you do? What would you do? Okay, what would this? Okay, we did this. What do you think about this? So much so I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes. But I will tell you that creates a ton of trust with me. And when they make a decision, I know they vetted it so fully that I'm like, they have a reason. And I really trust them because they said it to me up front. And so I just wanted to mention that and tuck it in your hat for whatever it is. Downtown's really precious land here in Mason. And I know everyone in our community cares deeply about what goes there. I know Mr. Lortz is on tonight on the call, and there's so many nights my husband and I have sat, well, not so many, that makes us sound like alcoholics. Many nights we've sat at all the places downtown and dreamt about what would go down there that would benefit our family. And I think a lot of people would like to say what they would like to see that be. So hopefully we can get to a place where a plan can come together that embodies everybody that lives here. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sanders. All right, I didn't see any more hands. Is that everybody? All right, council, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? You're not in favor? Oh, he's just kidding us. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.